Hi everyone, my name is Ayan Ahmed and welcome to RedDrop's Empower Her Sessions. This is a 4-part series where we invite a variety of experts and professionals to join us and talk to us about the many facets of the first period experience. If you joined us last week, then you're here with us when we were speaking with Dr. Cassandra Gordon, and she took us back to health class where we actually went to understand the biology of our periods as well as the female body. And this week, we're going back to school again, where we'll be chatting with professional guidance counselor Cassandra Gordon. So a little bit about Cassandra. Cassandra is a native of Chicago and a proud graduate of Jackson State University. She did her graduate studies at Mercer University and Cambridge College. And for over 20 years, she's been both an experienced educator and a school guidance counselor. She's a member of the Georgia School Council Association, as well as the American School Counseling Association. Today's discussion will be facilitated by our resident educator, Dana Roberts, who is one of the co-founders of RedDrop, and what we like to say is the true heart of the brand. So we're really excited to introduce you to Dana. Before we do that, just a quick run of show of what to expect today. So our discussion is 45 minutes. A good portion of that we'll get to hear from Dana and Cassandra and really mine those key insights that I think as parents, as family members, as anyone who's invested in the child, really understanding what their experience is like in school and how can we use the resources and the supports that are available at school to create a community that can really empower her through this time. From there, we're gonna shift over to a Q&A. So if you have any questions that come up or anything that's really interesting that you want Dana and Cassandra to explore more, feel free to leave us a question in the chat box. And then in the end, we'll go through it. Similarly, it seems like we have a really nice, tight, cozy group of people today. So we'd also love to play around with the discussion. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, I'm really excited to pass this on to Dana. Dana, take it away.
Thank you. So I am so humbled and excited to have Cassandra here. Full disclosure, she and I are very good friends. And I couldn't trust a better person with this conversation because we have together ushered girls through their first period experience. And so I know she has lived it, she has breathed it, and she has felt it. And so when we decided to do this, I was like, this is the perfect person. So I'm super excited to welcome you today, Cassandra. And we're just gonna, I really want to kind of set the tone because, you know, I think that parents really don't understand the enormity or the probability of a girl starting their cycle, starting their first period. I'm gonna norm it, first period at school. Girls are at school 6 to 8 hours a day with a teacher, a school nurse, a counselor. If they have after school activities with a coach. And so the probability of a girl starting their cycle without their immediate safe person, mother, auntie, sister, grandmother, is very high. And so once you fully really digest that and understand that likelihood of a girl starting your period without you as a mom, what we hope is that this conversation is really going to inspire a call to action for all of us to make sure that a girl is empowered and prepared. And so that's why we're really, really honing in on the subject. And we are so excited you are here today, Cassandra, so we could really talk about preparation within a school environment. So with that being said, let's jump into the first thing that I really wanted to get your expertise on, which is what is the most essential thing you think a parent, a guardian can do to prepare a girl to start her period at school?
Well, hello everyone, and I want to thank RedDrop for allowing me to be a part of this discussion today. One of the most important things is arming a girl with information. What is a period? What does it look like? What are you going to feel like? What is going to happen? How is this going to go so that they're not in shock when it happens? Because there is no set time, day, or place that it may occur. And it is, like you said, very likely they're at school with the teacher or a counselor when it occurs, or with the coach after school. And I'm a coach as well. So can happen, has happened, will happen again. Communication is another piece.
When you say communication, what does that look like? What do you think?
So communication between teachers and parents. Well, before that, communication between counselors and the nurse with teachers, reminding teachers, especially middle school teachers, who this may be their first run at it. This could happen. Listen to them. If they ask to go to the ladies' room, let them go. Most times, girls are going to ask more than once if they really need to go. As a teacher, I often, if the first time someone asks me to go to the bathroom, I'd say, give me a minute. Because if they're just going to lollygag and play, they go on to something else. But if they really need to go, you're probably going to hear from them, you know, again, the hand is going to go up, or that look of distress is on their face. And you know that there's a concern without them having to tell you in front of everybody, this is going on. And communication with our teachers so that they're prepared to communicate with parents just as counselors and the nurses are ready to communicate with parents. Because sometimes parents aren't ready. Sometimes parents think they're ready. And sometimes they're just on board. It's like, okay, I trust you guys to do what needs to be done to get her ready to, you know, just keep me posted, you know. We've been on the phone with a parent, the girl is in the bathroom, it happens. So that communication piece with everybody from, you know, counselor to teachers, and counselor to parents.
Do you think, so that's as simple as like basically starting or initiating a conversation if a girl is of age and you see the signs, right? Like at open house or an email, you know, or just a very informal conversation where you meet the nurse, you meet the counselor before you have to meet them under circumstances like this.
Absolutely. And some schools have parent classes or parent university, and that's a very good time to have those kind of discussions. Like you said, at open house, send something home and an information packet with the girls at the beginning of the year, so parents even know who can help my child if I can't. You know, every now and then you have a proactive parent, and you're like, okay, we got it. But there's so many, the girls, it happens in the sublime process.
You know what? You said something that was really interesting, and as a school administrator, you know, I never thought about it, but now I'm going to take away from this conversation my responsibility, you know, as an administrator, to have those conversations with my teachers, especially my first year teachers who haven't experienced anything like this, that this is a possibility, right? And let me help them. Let me help that teacher emotionally be prepared to have that journey with that girl. And I actually never thought about it until you said that. And so I really appreciate that. So once we have a rapport established, once we set kind of a tone of this could happen, right? And we've empowered her in that respect, what do you think is the next step?
So now that they're prepared that this could happen, and they need to know what to look for, because one indication that a girl is getting closer is she starts to get her boobs, she starts to bud. So they may complain of stomach pain and different things. Well, they should start wearing a light pad every day to
Right.
prepare them for that, so that it's not a totally traumatic experience. So keeping a kit in their locker.
Well,
I always would keep cosmetic, and I still do, little cosmetic pouches with items they'll need for that day, a pad, some wipes, that they can discreetly carry it down the hall without everybody knowing what's going on. They can use something even as something like a pencil box that you can't see through. And most of them have all kind of little bags now, but they just need to have something with them that they're prepared. And a starter kit is a great way that they're never left out there, even if after their first period.
You know, I think parents underestimate the power of the daily lightweight pad. I mean, that really could save a lot of just emotional stress. Oh my gosh, of trauma, of embarrassment, like you said. And that's just, I mean, there's, you know, of course RedDrop has those, but I mean, but bigger than that is like, if you know, not having to get up and find a sweater or find something to wrap around, you know, that baby, that girl's, you know, yeah. So, okay, so they have a lightweight, they have a kit. Okay, so let's say they have a kit, they start their period, but I mean, we've been in this experience where they just, a parent has given or has gave a kit to a girl, and what, she don't know how to use it. So, I mean, talk about that.
Well, you know, one thing about being a teacher is, you know, of course, we're learning during this pandemic time that everybody can't teach. Teaching is not as easy as it looks. And so sometimes we think when we tell somebody something, they got it. And yes, I gave you the information, but in real time, you have no clue what to do. It's kind of what I say about CPR training. Yes, I'm trained, I'm certified, but once you quit breathing, I'm like, wait, how many breaths? So it's kind of the same thing. I know I have this kit, and I know my mama told me something was in it. Now, what do I do with it? Right. So being able to talk them through it, explain to them, it's okay, calm down, it's gonna be fine. And remember, you may have to tell them the steps more than once. Right. So when we may say, or an adult may say, you know, put the pad in your underwear. And then you ask them, did you take the tape off? They're like, what tape? You know, the sticky off. So we assume sometimes, but just like in a classroom, we have to break it down step by step. You need to unwrap the pad. You need to take the adhesive backing off. You need to place it, and you tell them where to place it. Right. So we have to get more specific and more detailed so that they're not traumatized, because it can be an absolutely traumatic experience. And when we think of trauma, we think of, you're in a bad car accident, the tornado, you know, blew the house down, somebody got shot or something. But that emotional trauma is way just as impactful on a girl, or, you know, as some physical trauma, you know. So to try to guide them through it and reassure them it's normal. It's normal, and it's okay, and not to be ashamed.
Yeah, I think the hashtag is, it's normal, right? It is a normal thing that we have to endure as emerging young women. A period is normal. And we've been together where we've had girls who knew it was normal, and then literally thought to the other extreme, that thought that they were dying.
I'm dying.
I mean, that has been said to us, like, am I dying? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it's normal and it's okay. And so I think that, I'm so glad you said that, because at RedDrop, we know it's normal. You know, it's nothing abnormal for us to have, you know, conversations about periods and menstruation and all the other things. But sometimes people look at us, you know, a little differently because it still hasn't been accepted as a normal process. So, okay, so we have communication, we have products, we have prepared her prayerfully. She knows how to use it. And so now, what do you feel is the next step to foster a girl to have an empowering experience, especially in a school environment, and 9 times out of 10 in a middle school environment where self-esteem is an issue, right? Where you don't have, you feel powerless most of the time. So what do you feel like is the next step for girls in that environment?
So often we encourage students to have a safe person in the building, and that's somebody who they know they can go to no matter what. You know, we know that there are only about 7 different personalities. We have traits from those other personalities. And you're just going to have some teachers who come across as ice cold.
Right.
Go somewhere and sit down, I don't care. They do care, but that's just their personality. And then you have teachers who every little thing we care about. So they need to know who their safe person is. And depending on that child's personality, depends on who they connect with.
Right.
Sometimes they need that person who's just direct and to the point. So even if that safe person can't help them in that moment, they can get them to the person who can help them, who can be the nurse or the counselor or someone else in that capacity, because they may not be able to stop teaching class to assist them. So when you foster that relationship, you build that rapport, even if it's something as simple as them writing a note and sliding it to the teacher. And one thing you mentioned is, I don't know about anybody else's teacher's ed program, but nobody taught me about that. That kind of came with the territory. So out of all the things I was taught as an educator, that was not on the list, and it happens every year. So getting them ready, reminding them to be patient, helping their parents understand that same patience. This is not a one-time process. You may not get it the first time. It may look different
the next time.
Each month, especially at the beginning. It's not going to look the same. And for some people, it never looks the same.
Right.
So the more information we can prepare them with and physically prepare them with having a kit with them that they're never caught off guard. So for one person, it may be clockwork every 28 days. Somebody else, it may come a little early, and somebody else a little later. So you can't, you know, the key is preparation and patience.
And the key is patience with parents. Can we talk, I mean, can we just like, you know, kind of divert just a second? I know our focus is girls and parents for the most part, but especially right here, if you could pick a keyword for, you know, parents, you know, for them to have in this journey with themselves and girls, what would you say?
Patience.
Patience.
Because there's so many pieces to it. So now you know what's happening. Now you know what to do. Teaching them how to dispose of everything appropriately. Teaching them discretion. Because there's some kids who will just talk about any and everything to everyone. And so because and not getting upset when they don't know. Again, remembering that it's new for the girl. Sometimes it's new for the parent. It's their first daughter. You know, one of my friends like, I got all boys. I ain't have to deal with none of this. But, you know, well, she's here now. And you have to deal with it. So everyone has to be patient. Patience cannot be reiterated enough. And they're going to forget, because guess what? It happens once a month. So they don't, I don't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. And kids are so self-absorbed, they don't remember. So they may have to be reminded. You may have to keep up with it for them. Okay, you know, next week is your week. Do you have everything you need? So being patient, being understanding will make the process a whole lot smoother and a lot less traumatic.
I agree. You know what, Cass? I'm so happy you said that. I agree. Patience mixed with grace, right? That word again, grace of, grace for yourself as the parent, grace for your daughter as, the her, going through it, and just forgiving yourself, even if you have a mishap, even if it doesn't, even if it doesn't look like what you want it to for her first period, it's okay. Give yourself grace. And then, like you said, it's going to happen prayerfully the next, if there's no underlying medical condition, right?
Mhm.
In the next 28 days. And while it's not her first period, it still is building on an experience where we can help it not be traumatic every month in a school. I mean, honestly, I know we're talking about first period experiences, and that's really important, but also for a girl in a school environment with peers, right, with boys, with the pressures of, just trying to have this self-esteem, have, the pressures of puberty and etc. It's really a first period every month, because you don't want to mess it up every month, because, you get it right the first month and then you have this embarrassing accident the next month. Gee, you know what I'm saying? You just set yourself back. And so, yeah, I think that's really important. So I really want to hone in on your particular expertise, excuse me, Cass, which is middle school. We love middle schoolers, you and I. We do. We are both middle school teachers before we moved on to our next skill set. We're still middle school teachers. And so can you explain with middle school emotionality, why it's hard, why patience is the key, why grace is the key, and what other coping skills and activities can you give to us, the people who are not so in love with middle schoolers like we are, to help a girl get through her first period experience and middle school period?
What middle school brings lots of changes. The attitude, the little flip mouth. Parents is like, I don't know what's wrong with them. They never acted this way. And I always say, you never had a sixth grader before. Your sixth grader, your seventh grader, your eighth grader are totally different children. Hormones are changing, they're growing, they're being made aware of more things. They don't know what's going on sometimes. So I kind of akin it to taking a soda pop bottle and shaking it up. That's how their emotions are bouncing around, because 1 minute is key, and then they're in tears. Like, what are you crying for? I just told you to close the door. Like, it could be any little thing. And so then that patience has to come back in, because we forget that they're hormonal, especially again, if this is the first time. But like you said, each time can be a first time, especially at the beginning.
Right.
They don't know what's going on. My stomach is hurting. My back is hurting. I don't feel good. They're snapping at everybody in the house, including the dog. And the dog is like, I lay here every day. So it just changes. Their bodies are changing. The hormones are changing. Their personalities are changing. They're starting to really pay attention to the opposite sex, because that comes along with it. So then that's a whole nother dynamic that comes to play. And even when you've been through it, sometimes you're just not ready. It's like, oh my God, here we go. Get yourself together. And some navigate through it much better than others. Some settle down quicker than others.
Mm-hmm.
And some, you just got to ride that roller coaster and be introduced to that new child every year.
Right. Especially seventh grade. The middle.
They love and hate you within 5 minutes.
Yeah, the middle child of middle school. So Cass, let me say this. When we talk about especially a period being traumatic in middle school, and you said something, earlier offline when we were talking, when we think about the sight of blood, right? Can you dive into that a little bit for me, for everyone?
Well, of course, I think most people, if you see blood, it's a sign that something is wrong. There's a health concern. And then it's, or there's an injury. So getting the young ladies ready to know this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. You've not done anything wrong. It's not a curse, because you kind of hear it jokingly mentioned as the curse. It's not a curse. Mm-hmm. It is a part of becoming a woman. Mm-hmm. And along with that comes a whole nother set of concerns for some parents. Again, let's go back to this patience. Some girls are told, well, now that you have your period, you can get pregnant. Well, let's add to the trauma. Why don't you?
You know what? That is a whole nother topic for a whole nother Empower series that really just kind of really infuriates me, to be honest. And I know I'm going to give grace to our family. I mean, I love you, Mama, but I can hear you saying it to me and to my aunties, and I can hear all of y'all saying it, and I love you. But what I do want to make sure that and what I feel like at RedDrop we have collectively really taken a stand on, and more conversation will be forthcoming on this, is that we don't sexualize periods. It is a very normal process. It is a natural biological function that doesn't have anything to do with a girl ready to have sex and not get pregnant. Like, it shouldn't even be one in the same conversation, right?
Absolutely. But unfortunately, that's where some of that trauma comes into play, right? So now you're trying to deal with, this is going on with my body, but because of this can happen. Mm-hmm. So I can't say the word patience enough. Mm-hmm. The girls have to be patient with understanding their body. The parents have to be patient, mm-hmm. to know that you're in this together. Mm-hmm. It's normal, mm-hmm. and to prepare themselves, because sometimes you just forget what it was like. It becomes remote after years. You're like, okay, here we go. But be prepared to answer those questions. Be prepared to answer what in your mind is like, what? How could you think that? Mm-hmm. But we, as educators, we say no question is a dumb question. Mm-hmm. I'm more concerned when they're not asking questions, because that means they probably ask them of someone else, and you want to make sure the information that your child is receiving is the information that you want them to have, and that is accurate information. Because I promise you, everyone has a friend who knows everything and can answer every question with confidence and has no clue what they're talking about.
Cassandra, that's such a good point, because I think specifically you've hit on so many things. I actually want to acknowledge Hope, because she said, the trauma of telling girls that they can get pregnant when most of the time she's not even thinking about that is damaging. And I'm sure you guys can see it, but I think emotional trauma is actually, their effects are a lot more standing than physical trauma, and we teach our kids how to heal from a bruise on their knee, but not how to heal from their emotions, right? Or how to do that. And I think when it's traumatic, the experience can make girls feel like they're a victim of their body. And what Dana so eloquently said, like so much of what we want to do at RedDrop is to make sure a woman feels powerful in her body, and that starts from her first period and carries forth with everything that she does. So with that said, I wanted to actually acknowledge some of the questions that we're getting here in the box. But Hope, I'd actually love to know if do you have any question around anything that you shared before addressing anything else?
Hey, thank you. And I don't know if you can see me. I don't know if my camera's on, but anyway, I don't have any questions. And I literally was sitting here with tears in my eyes. I have a daughter. And I think I am guilty of, one, she did not have her first cycle when she was with me. And two, ironically enough, she and I did have this discussion. And she was saying how she was so confused. And I thought I had done such a good job in preparing her. But in actuality, I failed. And so she was just saying how she was so confused, and I was so frustrated with her, and she couldn't understand why, because I was like, why is this pad in the trash can unwrapped? And she was like, well, I don't know what to do with it. And we talked about it. Now she's 23. She said, you never shared it with me how to properly dispose of a sanitary napkin or how to properly put it on. And I was like, why would I do that when the same thing was done to me? So at some point, we do have to, first of all, break cycles that we don't even realize are there in order to teach our babies what is coming and how to handle it. And I'm sorry, my voice is shaking because I'm really thinking about the things I've done wrong as it relates to this first period. And so I just, I guess anybody who's listening, even if you you don't have a child, or if you're around little girls who may be about to have cycles, give yourself grace, because that's really important.
I think that's why I really am hard set on saying that word, coupled with Cass's patience, because not extending grace to yourself will only continue the cycle of trauma to your possible granddaughters and their daughters and their daughters. So it's basically like what you said, Hope. I didn't do this right, but I promise you, your daughter, now the conversation, if your daughter has a daughter, is going to be completely different. And so sometimes, you gotta, what's the song? You gotta lose to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so she didn't lose. Dylan, didn't lose. But now just imagine the empowerment that she has for the next generation and the next generation of an experience that she's gonna be able to foster to her daughter and her daughter's daughters. So it wasn't a fail. It was just a misstep, and the grace has been extended to you. So now we can get it right for our next generations.
And I also want to acknowledge the fact that you were able to talk to her later, right?
Yeah.
Like what we want to do with RedDrop is make the first the best, but we also know, like what Dana said, we're healing cycles, and just the very fact that you've been able to talk to her later and show that you're continuing to grow and learn more about this, and the fact that you're even here today, and to everyone who's here today, because it's all of our collective responsibilities to give this to our children in any way that we can. Mm-hmm. And to what you said, like sometimes it's the mistakes that help us learn the most instead of doing it perfect from the first time. And so just for your daughter to hear you say that, I'm sure she's going to make it a great experience moving forward. So we got a really good one from Trey, and he said, thanks so much for that, Hope. As a father on the verge, that really helps me think about her transition very differently. You immediately helped it feel more personal to me rather than something I just got to deal with. Ooh, that language I just got to deal with. I imagine, I'm not a parent. I have a lot of little nieces though, but that idea that I think the period always feels like something you got to deal with. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd actually like to open that up. Like, how are people feeling about this thing that they need to deal with? Does anyone else have any comments around this experience and any just honest thoughts and feelings about this experience that you're going to have to engage with your daughter?
I think this is where I do put the responsibility on us as women, right? And say we have to change our verbiage. You know, like, I mean, I'm guilty of it with my own daughters. You know, how we even describe the experience from month to month. I mean, and it's not, I mean, we all know it's not a great, you know, we don't wake up and be like, woo, you know, we on our period today, we're excited. But I think once we realize, just like how we talk about our kids are listening to us, you know, for everything else, you know, whether it's, you know, the profanity, etc., you know, how we speak life, how we speak death, how we just speak, then it is on us as adult women to change the way we talk about periods. And to be fair to Trey, you know, he is a dad. He's never going to experience a period. So what we put out is what he grabs. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, yeah.
So it's like, I don't want him to think that that's what he, you know, he has to, you know, deal with something with his daughter. On the other, I mean, I wanted a complete 360. I want him to think like, oh my gosh, my baby is about to embark on a journey of womanhood, and this is one of the steps. Let me celebrate her. Let me uplift her. Let me protect her. Let me empower her. Let me prepare her. And that's what we should do. And honestly, that starts with women. You have to fix it. And that's just my opinion on that.
We own how it's perceived. We're the gatekeepers. And
right.
It's important that we shape how this experience that only we go through is perceived and engaged with by the rest of the world.
Yes.
100% right by that.
Not only are we preparing the girls, because it's something that we experience as women, we have to prepare dads.
Yes.
And so it takes away that it's something I now have to deal with. He's ready, but and even our male teachers and administrators, the men who are in their lives, they're male coaches, you know, a lot of times they're like, oh, go on with that, go see, you know, such and such, you know, but you know, times have changed. You know, kids are sometimes between households. It very well could happen when they're with dad. And dad needs not to freak out because he may not be able to reach mom or auntie or someone at that moment. And you, again, you're talking through the door sometimes, as we have to do at school. So that's a whole nother piece of the puzzle. Dad has to be just as prepared as everyone else, not just mom and daughter, but dad has a role in it as well.
Okay, we got a father question on the dad note. Do I celebrate her period with like a period party, or do I give her space? What do you guys think? We could open this up if anyone has any thoughts.
I mean, my team knows how I feel about period parties. I think that is such an intimate, and it's such a actual like opportunity for especially a girl and a father to have together. I'm not into the period party thing. I'm not knocking it for anybody, but that's just not my thing. What do you think, Cass?
I think you have to know your child and the personality that you're dealing with. For one child, any kind of party is a party, and let's have one. Another child is like, I'm horrified. How could you possibly do this to me and think it's okay? Because as parents, sometimes our personalities are as different from our children is day and night. My mother and I are probably polar opposites personality wise. And, you know, yeah, I may want to have a party for every little thing that comes along. But I think, I personally, I think it's just kind of a personal, intimate moment. But if you want to celebrate with ice cream after, like, whoo, we got through this first time, it's only going to get better from here. That's, you know, that's fine. But when you say party, I guess defining party would be my first. Celebration, yeah, if you want to go out and, you know, if sushi's her favorite meal, sure, I think it's okay. But you have to know your child. I don't think you force it on them. If they say no, take that no, because they're probably like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm in the mood to celebrate nothing.
I actually love that sushi one, only because like my period has become a way for me to establish a relationship with my body and like to listen to it instead of me telling my body what to do. For me to listen to my body and be like, oh, okay, you're craving something. You want something, or like, you're not feeling good. You need a rest. And I think to a point that Dana shared earlier, or like that both of you guys spoke to earlier, it's this idea that often the first time that women understand their bodies is their period, and to immediately sexualize that means my body's a tool for somebody else's pleasure. Right? And it's not, my body is this is for me, you know, this is my sacred space, and I get to honor it and listen to it and develop it. And I think to that, I just wanted to read this last comment. And before I do, I want to thank all of the women for their honesty, for their transparency, and for sharing their stories. You know, good, bad, and ugly. It's really hard. And especially with all of the pressure and need to be perfect as a parent, it's really hard to say, you know, what I did well, what I didn't do well. But that it's a learning opportunity for all of us, and that the intention really with this space is to share these stories so that we can all collectively get better and be better. And the only way we can be better is really being aware of what that experience is like for our girls. So this is from Glenna Walker, and I apologize if I said your name wrong. To Hope, we do what we think is right at the time. Exactly. She said, I actually went into overdrive with my daughter going in. You better not ever leave anything around for people to know you're on your period. I feel guilty for being so hard about it. And she's 31. I would say it's nasty for people to see that. And it's true, right? I get that. Again, it's this idea that we need to censor our bodies for other people. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? And if anyone else has any questions, we have 1 more minute left, but it's a good conversation. So if there's any last thoughts anyone wants to share, please feel free to do so.
I will say, Ion, and I know you're going to set us up for our closing call to action, right? But this is what this truly in this session is the call to action for us.
Say it. Go for it, Dana. Wrap it.
Well, which is to change our trajectory of thought and to change it. Like, okay, you messed up. Okay, Grace, now change it. What are you going to do to change it? What are you going to do to possibly make sure that your daughter has the absolute best experience if she starts her first period at school? What are you going to do? Think about it and then make a plan and do it. Change it. If your daughter's already had her first period, what are you going to ensure that she's prepared from today on out? Change it. Okay, your daughter now is older. Okay, now let's have a conversation with her so we can make sure that our granddaughters won't experience that. Change it. And so I think that's what it is. And it's personal responsibility for us now to go to the people we love and change it. Yeah.
I love that. So you guys heard it loud and clear. That is the RedDrop call to action. Please leave any questions or comments that you might have. here in the chat if you want to share something. The team will stay on for a little bit longer. But please, we'd love to hear your call to actions. We'd love to hear your answers and what you will change moving forward. Feel free to reach us on our Instagram, on our Facebook, or on our website, tryreddrop.com. And stay tuned for next week's session, same time, same place. And look out for the Eventbrite coming soon. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Cassandra.
Yes.
Really
Thank
love
you for having me.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you all. And like I said, we're going to hang tight a little bit longer if anyone has anything to share or any questions.